welcome back to the... We haven't even come up with the name for these.
Nope.
What do you want to call them?
That's up to you, whatever it is.
You guys can come up with something, leave in the comments. Right now we'll still call it Interviews with the Greatest Hunter in Alaska. So this is episode 3, and we're here to talk about how we claimed this as our prize, along with some other trophies, some other stories in there, and some unfortunate events at night.
In operation, as you can see, we've got 2 4-wheelers with no winches tied in.
And other things.
Saw the moose head happen. Pretty normal day.
So, yeah. Welcome, Roger. He runs the site Harm. There'll be a link to that down below. So check that out. It's a hunting blog that you post stories from your past as a guide and also as just a hunter with family. So
Yeah. And what we're doing is we're reading different stories. The last story that we read was actually the worst day of my life, which was a tragic story, and there's a few stories similar to that on the blog, but a lot of them is hunting with grandkids. A lot of them is my old hunts that I did back in the 60s, late 60s. The one we chose today is called Nathan's Turn, and it is Nathan right here that we're talking about. So, but anyway, so anytime you're ready, I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to get started. If you guys ever have any questions about the stories, leave them below and we'll answer them on the next episode. Other than that, yeah, let's begin.
Yeah, and last time we just read the story straight through, and that seemed to work fine, but this time we'll stop at different places in the story and let Nathan share some of his thoughts also, but I think that might be a better one for this one for sure. So with that, anyway, so the name of the story here is Nathan's Turn. Being the youngest in the family has advantages and disadvantages. One disadvantage when it comes to hunting in our family is that the oldest usually gets the first opportunity to harvest each of the different species. Nathan knew his turn would come and took it in stride, always happy for his siblings. He was the last one to take a black bear and next to the last one on a caribou, but now it is his turn for moose. It's September 2013 and another family moose hunt. It was Sagan, Thor, Jens, Nathan, and me hunting in our old favorite area. The trip in was one of the best, not a single problem. So much can go wrong with the 4-wheelers on a wilderness expedition.
Jump in a dead machine.
It's working.
Is your machine running now?
My running is replacing it down through.
After about 6 miles in, we set up our camp at our regular site. We had a wall tent and 2 sleeping tents, almost like home.
Some tables.
The first couple of days were spent 5 miles up the drainage, spotting and doing some moose calling from our favorite creekside spotting bank. Having no luck there, on day 3, we moved further up the creek to another good spotting area. It didn't take long until we spotted some caribou a couple miles further up the creek on the hillside. We had a caribou tag, so we tucked the 4-wheelers up as far as we could and stashed them by the creek bank. We got out the 45 power Bosch & Lomb spotting scope to check out the size of their antlers. Nathan had already killed a nice caribou when he was 11, so we were looking for something larger. The largest one was definitely a shooter. We had already closed the distance to a little less than a mile, so we made our plan for the final stalk. The wind was in our favor and we had patches of alder and willows between us and the caribou, which gave us good cover. Thor and Jens stayed back and watched so they could signal us in case the caribou moved. We took off and it didn't take long until we got within 200 yards from the caribou. After Nathan got set up and with a slow squeeze of the trigger, the .257 Robert's Ackley improved 120 grain nozzle partition bullets did their job. After all the high-fiving was over, we made our way over to the Caribou. It was an impressive Caribou with beautiful tops scoring 386 B&C points. I didn't get any of the filming of the Caribou like always. Roger's not a very good photographer when it comes to that, but anyway, here's Nathan. Show us your Caribou. So I thought we would stop here and just a couple comments about the pointing of a Caribou. What makes this such a nice Caribou is that it has a double shovel, it has long beams, and it has really impressive tops.
Hang on. So double shovel, is that these right here?
That's they call it on measuring antlered animals. This would be the first point. So we call the first point is the whole point. It's a shovel. In a Caribou, they call it shovel. Now on a deer, they would say that it's either a brow point. That would be kind of what they would say on that one. And then this would be the second point, where this is called the bez. So you have shovels, bez, the beams, and then your long points. And at the top, if you have palmation, anything instead of like one little deal here,
so palmates spread out a little more.
It spreads out, and you get credit for all of these. It's a very detailed system. Boone and Crockett has the same scoring as Pope and Young. The only difference between the two is that one is taken with a bow.
Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young are both.
Those are the record books for entering the large trophies. They have a minimum score. So a minimum score of a Caribou is 400. There's 5 different species of Caribou. This is a bearing ground Caribou, so there's 5 species. But for this one, minimum is 400. This one only scored 386, so it didn't make the all-time record book. But they do have a record book at 375 that you can enter it. And then Safari Club also has a scoring system that he would have been fairly high in Safari Club because they measure each individual point. And the score goes like this one would be probably 430 points in Safari Club. But anyway,
so they all have like their different systems of measurement on it.
Was there anything else on the Caribou stock and the hunt? Anything that you remember that you thought was funny or something neat?
It was like the perfect setup, but it was the second to hardest kill, I think, aside from the goat, just because like the color of Caribou is so similar to like that tundra, especially at that season. They were like the brown and white like faded in perfectly to like the lichen along there, and also like just like the red for some reason. But it was also, I don't know, it wasn't that bright that day. There's also like that clearing of trees right in front of us that I was trying to aim across, and the wind kept blowing that one branch right in front of where I was shooting. And so when something that close keeps hitting the scope, it keeps hitting like fuzzy and not, and I was like, oh my god, if I miss this perfect shot. But aside from that, yeah, no, it was great. As soon as I pulled the trigger, I was like, oh thank god.
we have the footage on a video on my hunting blog of him shooting this Caribou also. So if you're ever interested in that, it's our family moose hunt. I think is the name of the video. But anyway, we have that one on there, and then I think Nathan's going to put some footage on here also.
Yeah, well, part of the reason we chose this story is I found specifically this one. We had already planned on doing it, but I found a bunch of footage from an old camera that most of it might just be like shaking around and doing whatever we were doing on the hunt. But I'll interject other footage from the same area and try to like piece together exactly what the experience is like. So, and then if you want more detail, obviously go over to his blog because he's got everything laid out there perfectly. If you want to see like pretty much any area of Alaska that we've hunted in. So, yeah, but yeah, we can keep going. So we just took down the Caribou.
Keep on the story.
This one here.
Thor and Gents watched the stock, and after the Caribou went down, they made their way over to help out with the pack. The more the merrier when it comes to packing a moose or caribou. Once back to the four-wheelers, we strapped on the meat and started our long 10-mile ride back to camp. Nathan and Jens were riding ahead of us, and about a mile up from camp, as they came around the bend in a trail, Nathan spotted a moose in the creek bed. He showed Jens, and they jumped off the four-wheelers and waited.
We hadn't seen many moose on this trip, right? No, yeah. So this is right when we were coming back. It was starting to get dark, and that's when that cow ran in front of me and Jens on the trail. And so I stopped. Jens hadn't seen it. We hopped off to go look at the cow. We looked out into the creek bed because the trail is like set off into like some brush, I guess, that you can't really see. So we stepped out there, and right when we looked out there, even though it was like getting darker, you could just like see like the moose and like the antlers, and we're like, oh crap. So,
And that was the first bull that we had spotted.
yeah, and it was a decent sized one too.
Oh, yeah, very good. You got that. And anyway, you showed Jens, and they jumped off the four-wheelers and waited for us to catch up. We were quickly losing light, so Thor and Jens grabbed their rifles, slipped through the alder. The next thing we knew, Jens had a 44-inch bull moose down. The moose fell into the creek, so we had our work cut out for us. After taking a few pictures, we decided we needed to take the caribou meat back to camp and eat supper before coming back to butcher the moose. We used headlights and lamps from the four-wheelers to see what we were doing. Butchering a moose in the creek is challenging enough, but doing it in the dark just added another level of difficulty.
In operation, as you can see, we've got two four-wheelers with no winches tied in, and then we got doors in the guts, so we got in here in the frame. Door is working.
All in all, it went well, and we made it back to the camp around 2 a.m. We hung all of the meat on the meat poles and called it a night. The next morning we slept in, and later that day the boys cleaned all the meat and junk off of the skull plates of the moose and the caribou.
Yeah, and that's where we have that video of Jens sawing the moose.
Hey, how we doing?
Right.
Yeah.
So once you get them taken care of, you have the skull plate, take the meat off, take everything off, and then you boil that so you don't have any meat hanging around. Put it on a little board, and then you do some plaster of Paris.
Still gotta sand this one down.
And then you sand it down, and then you put some felt or rawhide, some type of a coating over it, and then put it on a plaque, put it up on the wall, which is, this has been a process. It's a slow process, especially if you've got a job and doing other things, you know. But
Yeah, well, if you see the garage, we got like 100 of them out there too that we decided to do all at once.
anyway, 2 days later, we were way back up the creek on our second spotting bank. Around midday, Sagan spotted a moose on the hillside in front of us. It wasn't a big moose, but since we had any bull tag, we decided that Sagan, Nathan, and I would go for him. Thor and Jens again would stay back to signal us if we had problems locating the moose. It was at least a mile from the creek and about 500 foot up on the hillside. Knowing the tundra was going to be soft, I voiced my opinion that it may be too far of a pack. Sagan and Thor assured me that Thor could get his Yamaha Grizzly four-wheeler up the 40-foot bank and make it most of the way to the moose. I was not convinced, but told them I was only going to do one load off the mountain. After going through the small brush, sinking 3 to 6 inches in the tundra, I knew for sure it wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to like this pack. As we were getting closer to the moose, we turned to look back toward the creek, and we could see Jens coming after us. At first, we thought he was just going to join us for the stalk, but he yelled for us to wait. He told us his dad had spotted a bigger moose about a half a mile to our right in a small drainage. There was a couple of mounds that stuck out from the mountain itself, and with the wind in our face, we climbed above about 100 foot up one of them so that we could see the small drainage. The bull was eating in the willows and was with a cow. His antler spread looked close to 50 inches. and again, Nathan could shoot any bull. I used my Leica 800 rangefinder and discovered that he was 265 yards at about a 30-degree angle from us. My custom 300 Winchester Magnum was sighted in for 200 yards, so I told Nathan to hold on the top of the moose's shoulder. You could hear the thump of the 180 grain Nosler partition bullet on his first shot. It took 2 more hits to put the moose down. The massive bodies of moose can take a lot of lead before they hit the ground. We were all pretty excited for Nathan, who now had a giant caribou and his first moose. Not a bad hunt for a 14-year-old. We made our way down the hill through the willows and alder to the kill. It was really a nice moose with a 46-inch spread. That was the second largest of the 5 moose the kids have taken in that area. Is there anything you remember about that one that
Yeah, it was my first animal that I shot that didn't die in one hit. And when I shot it, we thought for sure it was dead, but I'd aimed high because of the angle we were at, and then it had spine shot it. So that was the first animal that I didn't one shot, and that was a little disturbing when we ran up. They're a lot bigger too than I thought. I don't know. So aside from that, being small and like being a 14 or whatever, just big when you get up to it. I don't know. Like I remember me and Gents ran like through that alder and stuff, and it was still alive when we got there.
They're massive size.
Huge.
They're real impressive when you walk up to them. You go, whoa, you know, it's one thing to see them, but once you get there and you're that close, yeah, they're really, really big.
Yeah.
And
A lot of meat.
as you said, there's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay, now for the work. All I could do was think about packing this guy off the mountain. At 69, packing a 100-pound quarter through the willows and down through the marshy tundra for 1.5 miles was not high on my list of things to do. I knew that it wasn't going to be fun. As we were skinning, every now and then I would hear the faint sound in the distance, which sounded like a 4-wheeler coming up the mountain. About 45 minutes into the butchering, the noise got louder, and all of a sudden, less than 100 yards, appeared Thor on his old Yamaha Grizzly 600. I couldn't believe he had made it. I would have bet anyone money that he couldn't do it. I told everyone I would kiss him if he made it, but I reneged. I felt like it when he rolled over the 5-foot-high alder, stopping beside the moose.
Whoa!
I was saved from what I had remembered in the past to be very painful. It was looking like it was going to be my hardest pack, but turned out to be one of my easiest of all times. I didn't have any extra, and I was walking down the hill. We did, however, have a little excitement on the last part of the creek. The front wheel came off, or the front wheel got lodged sideways, and it took all of us, including the winch, to get it loose. So, what were you going to say?
Well, for anyone who doesn't know that stuff out there, like, if you haven't stepped on that tundra, for anyone who doesn't know, especially if it's been wet recently, it's literally like walking on a sponge. Like you step into it and you just like sink, but you don't like sink through anything. It just moves with you. So it feels like it's like there's no grip on it.
Like a real soft mattress type thing.
Yeah, it's almost like you're constantly doing squats because of how like much you have to move your feet.
Yeah.
It's not fun. And then Thor, we definitely didn't think was gonna make it because it's like almost straight up for like 10 feet.
40 foot straight up.
Yeah,
the winch up. So I just didn't. I knew in my mind. I'm not a big 4-wheeler guy.
And we had flipped those machines
fly
plenty of times.
airplanes
so.
and stuff. I've flown airplanes and I've flown a lot of times, but I've never been in. I hadn't done a lot of 4-wheeling. That kind of 4-wheeling. But
Well,
I've seen some incredible things they've done.
Yeah.
And in fact, I had a Honda, which is a really good Honda Rancher, which is a great machine, which now Sagan or Nathan's dad owns. But now, because he had that Yamaha Grizzly. I decided I needed a Yamaha Grizzly, so I went and bought me a new Yamaha Grizzly, and it's an amazing vehicle. There's no doubt.
Nice.
And there's some there's some others that people would say might be better, but as far as four-wheelers go, the Yamaha Grizzly is just a fantastic hunting vehicle for sure. But anyway, okay. We're here at the end now. So on our way back to the camp that evening, we checked Jent's moose carcass in the creek bed. It had been dragged out by a grizzly. There was still some bones left and a little meat on them, so we decided to return at dusk and sit on a hill above the kill and see if the bear would come back. It was a great setup if he came back before dark. Everyone was pretty excited since none of the kids had killed a grizzly. As the light was fading, so were the prospects of seeing the bear. Finally, it was too dark to shoot, so it was time to head out. As we were leaving, we spotted a dark shadow coming off of the hill on the opposite side of the creek. It was the bear, but the light was gone, so killing the grizzly wasn't going to happen on this hunt. With that, we headed back to camp. What a wonderful trip for Nathan and Jent's. Overall, it was a blast. More precious memories for my family. God is good. That's the story.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a good story. What the bear thing, I totally forgot. So that actually adds a lot more to the night that we killed that moose. We had previously seen, or when we got to our place that we set up our camp, I don't know if this was this trip, I think, there was people heading out and they had told us there had been that bear. Right. Okay, so that was that trip. So then when we were skinning that moose, me and Jens the whole time, and like people had been saying there was that bear that had been around, and which is normal because you're out in the wilderness, but to have it like be around someone's campsite is kind of frightening because I mean it's not that afraid of humans. And so we're out there skinning that moose, and there's all in the middle of a river, so all that blood is just going down the stream, the guts, like there's nothing else going on. We're making all the noise in the area. And then we finally got done, and we're like, time to get out of here. And then, I don't know if you remember this, but then one of the machines was dead. Someone had left the lights on without the machine being on, so then we had to take the battery out in the dark of another one, then like hook it up to another one and jump it, and that was...
There's always something going on up there, that's for sure.
It's always interesting.
And the thing is, with Nathan being at 14, you know, you're starting to get a lot more mature, a lot older, and especially if you've done a lot of these things. But you know, Nathan started out when he was 3, 4, 5, and 6, going on all these hunts with everybody, and you know, you learn different things. But the older you get, the more you feel more comfortable. But there's always something going on, and we've had some exciting times. Hunting has been great for all of us, I think.
Yeah, yeah, speaking of maturing, I remember that trip was also exciting because when we had killed that moose and then we decided that we had to go back out there, I don't know, it's kind of exciting because as a kid you don't really like drive back out 10 miles at midnight and then go skin that moose in the middle of the night. Then we were all driving back and like celebrating and stuff. I don't know, it felt pretty cool. I felt like I had like kind of joined the grown-ups at that point. It was like 3 in the morning, we're hanging meat from trees out in the wilderness, so yeah. So that kind of stuff about hunting makes me.
And that's what my blog's about too. Is it just I come up here as a 20-year-old kid, and I've been up here 50-some years, and I've been hunting basically ever since I got up here, and it's just hunting with lots of different friends. That was special. And then when I become a guide, I started hunting with lots of people that I didn't know, and I've become very good friends with them. But over the last 10, 15 years, my hunting basically has been with the grandkids, and my wife and the grandkids, and that's just been a blast. It's when you hunt with someone you love, it's real special, and it's a real family. We've made it a real family event.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for listening to our stories, and have a great day.
Yep.
Well, I think that went pretty well.
I thought it went very well, or at least I thought.
Yeah.